and then like there are different training recipes. There are a lot of factors that could contribute to the to this robustness in VIT. So we really want to ablate and understand where these robustness come from for better understanding. So in the second part of the talk, I will delve deeper into VIT's robustness. So I want to start from something that's almost like a pre-deep learning era stuff, visual grouping and information bottleneck. And if I'm not sure how many of you actually read these papers, but I came from a background where I read all these wonderful papers from Jitendra and Berkeley, and these before the deep learning came out. The visual recognition community, a lot of the papers were talking about the cognitive process of like visual grouping guided by the Gestalt similarity law, and people talk about segmentation, and people talk about the grouping of pixels. And why is this important? Well, because visual grouping is actually a process, a phenomenon that is at the core of mid-level vision. And mid-level vision is the bridge that connects the low-level vision to the high-level vision. But it is very difficult to study this part because for high-level vision, we know it's a semantic output. For low-level vision, we know that our retina cells are like Gabor filters. It's like boundary detection. It's like detecting the boundaries, detecting these motions. But for mid-level vision, it's been really like a mystery. I still remember at CMU when I was studying Alyosha's course, he talks about this mid-level vision. It still fascinates me today and still influences my research. And what's really happening in the mid-level vision is that there is this like when object-centric representation and this object-level representation with pixels grouping into objects, and with this, this is a bottom-up process, and it's really important for the it's kind of the source of the generalization capability of human. And in the old days, if you look at the people doing segmentation, actually a lot of times people kind of formulate the problem as a graph-based problem. So you can represent the image as graphs, and then for every pixel you can consider it as a node, and there are edges that connecting every pair of the pixels that represent the similarity of the pixels. And if you want to segment the image, and basically it's a graph cut problem where you want to cut the graph into pieces by looking at the weakest links. So this is in the old days how people do this. But I'm going to come back to the talk because we are talking about vision transformer, and here's the connection. So if you look at how people usually do it, and a very popular technique is a spatial clustering. So if you look at the early days, like normalized cut, spatial clustering, and all kinds of different graph cut algorithms, they kind of all point to this spatial graph theory using eigenmaps to find the significant component of the clustering of the clusters of the data. So for example, imagine these are the feature space distribution of the pixel features. And what people usually do is you construct a pairwise affinity matrix. And from the affinity matrix, you can get the graph Laplacian, which is, and then people do is you take the eigen decomposition. You can basically use eigen decomposition on the affinity on the graph Laplacian, and you find the top several eigenvectors, and these top several eigenvectors, they're actually the main components of the clusters. And if you look at, if you treat every row of these eigenvectors as the new data, they are actually the data that's actually projected into a kernel space where these originally non-compact clusters, they suddenly become compact in the kernel space, where it's very easy, linearly separable, and easy to perform the clustering. So this actually indicates some very interesting things. So it means that actually these special clusterings, they are like kernel k-means. They transform the data into a linearly separable space where the code becomes very clean and very good. And if you look at this form, do you think it's familiar, this affinity matrix? Well, it does look familiar to us, and very surprisingly, I personally don't see a lot of people talking about this, but maybe I missed something. Maybe I was missing, but it seems that there is an interesting connection here. So if you look at the self-attention, where is basically trying to also model these pairwise affinity matrix and normalize with the softmax. And this normalization of the softmax is also very similar to the graph Laplacian, although there are some differences. And then if you look at the form, it's actually quite similar to this eigen decomposition, except that everything in the VIT is like, of course, these two are not exactly the same. You cannot say they are exactly the same, because this one is like explicit eigen decomposition. This one is like driven by your learning goal, right? However, it's really when I look at this, I can't help to notice the connections. So indeed, people found very interesting emerging behaviors from the VITs that further strengthen these kind of hypotheses. For example, this Dino paper from Facebook AI Research, they found that if you use self-supervised learning to train VITs, and interesting these behaviors such as the segmentation of the foreground object emerges. And these indicate that, well, it is possible that VITs kind of capturing the mid-level representation in a correct way. And in this work, we kind of wonder whether there are some correlations between the grouping phenomenon and the robustness of the network. If that is the case, then that is very, very interesting, because it's echoing what people are doing in the old days. So what we did is that we look at the number of significant, we look at the number of significant eigenvalues. If we take the tokens from the VIT and perform some sort of eigen decomposition, we can see there is actually a very significant correlation between the number of significant eigenvalues versus the robustness of the network over different blocks. So especially in the mid-level blocks, you see there is a very significant improvement of the network in these areas, and then there is a very significant drop of the of the zero eigenvalue. There is a significant drop of the significant eigenvalues. So this means that grouping is happening here, and while grouping is happening, the robustness is also increasing here. But if we go back to examining the same thing in ResNet, let's say ResNet 50, the behavior doesn't, we don't observe very similar behaviors. So if we further visualize the clustering of the token, and we can see that this kind of clustering result also refines across different blocks. So you can see better and better segmentation. And notice that this segmentation from the VIT is actually not supervised by mask. It's just naturally emerging when you are training on ImageNet. So this is very interesting. And actually, in the paper, we kind of further delve deeper into the relation to information bottleneck. So what we found is that actually in the self-attention can be written as one step of the iterative optimization of the information bottleneck goal. So if you look at the information bottleneck, the objective, if you kind of optimize it iteratively, you can rewrite it into the self-attention form. And this is very interesting. So you can, for the VIT, you can kind of think of it as a layer-wise repeated like promotion of this information bottleneck. And we all know that information bottleneck promotes the clustering. So that this kind of explains or echoes why these kind of clustering results, this segmentation kind of emerge in the VITs because the self-attention kind of promotes the clean code, which are very which show very compact cluster structures in the feature space. And this one shows basically a trinity of the three things: the visual grouping, information bottleneck, and self-attention. So they kind of form a trinity that helps that has a process with the robust generalization. And of course, actually in VITs, we don't just use vanilla self-attention. What we use is a multi-head attention. And multi-head attention actually can be interpreted as a mixture of information bottlenecks. You have several information bottlenecks that in parallel with each other. Each one is kind of capturing a region, different regions, different parts of the object. And in this work, we actually are interested in the robustness versus the number of heads. We actually did a brief study, and we found that at some point there is a trade-off between the clean accuracy and the robustness. And if you keep adding the number of heads, and actually it's getting more and more robust. However, there's a drop in the clean accuracy at some point. So because the multi-head self-attention can be interpreted as a mixture of information bottlenecks. So the important thing is actually how to aggregate them, because at the end of the network, people usually just use a all MLP block. This all MLP block is kind of just using one-by-one convolutions followed by some nonlinear transform, then another one-by-one convolution to aggregate the information from different heads. However, so here's actually the design of the fully attentional network. So we think that this channel aggregation part is very important, and because you are capturing this grouping information when you are doing this token mixing, when you are capturing these tokens, then it's important that you come up with a design that can capture these results more holistically instead of using the MLP block to make the decision locally. So what we come up is a attentional design at the channel processing part, and basically you can think of it as adding the weight to the channel when you are doing the aggregation. You kind of highlight some of the channel because they kind of capture more important information, and then you de-emphasize some of the channels. And this, when you are computing these channel attention, and actually there are different ways you can do it. Most standard, straightforward way you could do it is something very similar to XCIT from Facebook. Like you just apply standard channel attention, and you should be able to do it. But an even better way we do it is this something called efficient channel attention, which is this figure. Instead of using, because when you are using the channel attention, the standard channel attention, it requires again a quadratic number of memory with respect to the number of channels. And you know, at the end of the network, you have a lot of channels, and with this kind, it increases the complexity and memory. So what we did is something a little bit similar to squeeze and excitation. So we first take an average of the channel and basically forming a prototype of the channels and use this prototype to attend different channels to obtain the weight at different channel and use this weight to as a channel attention vector to basically to reweight these channels before going out. So this is basically the design of the fully attentional network, and the reason why this one works is because with this channel attention design, you kind of have a more holistic understanding of different channel. That is you are taking more effectively using the grouping information I just mentioned previously. So here are the main results of this work. So our work actually achieves very competitive performance on both image classification and downstream tasks. So on image classification, so just want to mention this is similar to ConvNeXt. It's a general purpose vision transformer backbone. And when you talk about backbone, you have first do image classification, and then you do downstream tasks like you use a model to transfer to segmentation and detection problems. So on the image classification problems, we achieve competitive performance compared with a ConvNeXt model. For example, with the ImageNet 22K pre-training, so our model achieves 87.1% accuracy on the clean data and outperforms the ConvNeXt with a comparable model size. And actually, the improvement on the robustness becomes very significant. So we achieve 35.8 MCE, which is a state-of-the-art result on ImageNet C, and outperforms ConvNeXt with a very significant margin, as you can see here. Our model actually outperforms the largest model of ConvNeXt, which is like more than double the size of our network. And actually, you can also see that the fully attentional network, it kind of promotes very good mid-level segmentations from when you are training on ImageNet. These segmentations, they emerge as a result of the label supervision. There is no mask supervision. They just emerge naturally. And you can see more examples here. The second columns are from the proposed network. And then we also transfer these results to semantic segmentation and also object detection. We compare both on COCO and cityscapes and their corrupted version. So we can see that the robustness, so we compare with SegFormer first on Cityscape C, on both Cityscapes and Cityscape C. So an advantage of the model is that usually robust models, they will need to sacrifice the clean accuracy to exchange for the robustness. But actually, in fact, we don't observe this. The good thing is like your clean accuracy will always be slightly better than state-of-the-art models, but your robustness can be much better than these state-of-the-art models. And it's really important for safety critical applications. So you can see, like, for example, here on the clean COCO, our clean accuracy actually outperforms the both ConvNeXt and Swing using the Cascade RCN as a head, and so these actually shows the potential, or these potentials of the network. And we have made the code available. It's already, we are still in the process of releasing the pre-trained models, but the code itself is already available on NV Labs. And so this concludes the talk, and thank you very much for attending.
Okay, we have 7 minutes for questions, and after that, we'll have the spotlight, and then we'll have the coffee break and the poster briefing. You can come to the front if you have to ask any question.
It seems to be able to be applied not just at layer but on the other layers as well. Have you tried something like that and see if it's
actually, this is applied at every block. So it is actually a very modularized design. So whenever there is a channel aggregation, so we apply this. Yeah.
The other question, I guess, for that is, have you tried only using the faculty class boxes because the information of bottleneck was already there with other layers. So only only the last layer is it has an additional bottleneck.
Yeah. That is actually a good question. So one thing I forgot to mention very clearly in this one is actually the design contains in our design we have several different backbones. So we have the one backbone which is similar to DIT like or VIT like straight trunk, and then there is a hybrid backbone. That one shows the best performance, and it's actually echoing a lot of the talks happening yesterday. For example, Zhiding and some other people, they suggested, okay, there is a converging design between CNNs and VITs. And actually, one of our best performing model is this hybrid design. And the hybrid design is we take the convolution blocks from ConvNext as a first few convolution layers. And then following that, we will have this attentional design, fully attentional design. And this works best because it's you don't have to have these attention designs from the very beginning. Very similar to human, like we have convolutions in our eyes. You don't have to do it. You don't have to have global receptive field from the beginning. Just use convolutions, and it's actually more efficient and works better. So to answer your questions, yes, I think this actually works better. So you don't have to be last layer, but last a few blocks. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your awesome presentation. So I have one question about the robotics of the VIT. So,
sorry, which page?
I forgot about the robotics of the VIT.
Oh, VIT, okay.
And do you think like the VIT one is going to be vulnerable or going to be attacked by some well-designed adversarial learning or something like that?
VIT is adversarial learning.
No, I mean like the VIT is going to be like attacked. Can it be attacked by some well-designed adversarial learning or adversarial attack?
So I have seen works. Actually, if you look at the state-of-the-art results on papers with code before FAN, there is another work. Actually, the second best, actually the third best robust network. It's using adversarial training. I think it's from Google, from Deching, one of my previous colleagues, and they use adversarial training to train the network, to train the VITs, and they show this adversarial training can improve the robustness of the network. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I have a question about this attention map that you show for the VIT. So in this figure, you can see that it's focused entirely on the object. Does it mean that the VIT uses all the object information for classification and it just doesn't look at specific properties of the object? for classifying. For example, here you can potentially classify this based on the redness or the red part of the object. Right? So do you have any thoughts on that?
Could you repeat the question again? Sorry, I wasn't capturing the point.
So in this attention map, it focuses entirely on the object.
Yeah.
On the whole object.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that the VAD uses all for classification, or and it doesn't look at exit parts which are significant parts? So
I see. I see. Yeah. So I think this is the result after the aggregation of different self-attention heads. So if you look at each self-attention head, they kind of capture different parts of the object. We did some visualization, and that was indeed the case. But after you aggregate the information, it seems it's quite, so the result you are seeing here is like you already aggregate different parts and it's capturing the whole object holistically. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.